Hi, I'm Masha, the blonde from Coding Blonde, and today we're talking about more user experience design, or UX. UX is a fascinating field. It hasn't been around that long, and so a lot of the times people didn't know about it when getting into the industry. So it's very, very interesting to see what paths they took on their way to it. And Laila's story is fascinating. Laila is a designer at Hanno, an amazing woman, and also my guest today. She's about to share her story with you, her experiences, and some of the tips that she can give to anybody who wants to get into the field.
Hi, my name is Laïla von Alvensleben. I'm a designer at Hanno. Hanno is a digital product design team. We're a fully distributed team, meaning that we work from anywhere and we don't have an office and we all collaborate online. So my journey to UX design was quite indirect. There were a lot of things that I did before I even got into UX design. So I actually started studying international relations when I went to university. I did that for 2 years and then I dropped out because I realized it wasn't my thing. I wanted to do something more creative, so I got into interior architecture. So I completed that for 4 years, got a bachelor in interior architecture. After that I did an internship, but then I was unemployed for a while and I also realized that it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So then I started doing internships in graphic design. I did that for about a year, and then I got a job as a graphic designer. I did that for about maybe 2 years, and then I started doing more UI design while I was doing this job. So I started out in print and then I started going into designing things for the web, starting designing also apps. And then I thought, you know what, I really want to know more about this. So I applied for a master's in digital media management at Hyper Island. I went to the Hyper Island school in Manchester in the UK. I did that for a year, and during that master's degree I learned about design thinking and also about team dynamics and a lot of other useful things, including UX design. And then I joined Hanno as an intern, and then I've been with Hanno now for 3 years. So I help out mainly as a design researcher when I'm on a project, and I also help out with prototyping, but I'm not a coder, so I let the rest of the team get on with the coding when that part comes. I think the thing I enjoy the most about UX design is interacting with people and knowing that the way we design things can have a profound impact on people's lives. So I love knowing that we're doing this for others, and having that interaction with them and seeing how they're using things. It's a very human thing. Even if it's digital, we have a lot of contact with people. So I couldn't do something like that's only digital. I couldn't, for example, do only coding and not talk to people, because I enjoy getting to know people and understanding how they think and how they feel. So that's probably my favorite part. I think the most challenging part of UX design is letting go of your assumptions and keeping an open mind. So as a designer, we have a responsibility of kind of letting go of our ego and saying, you know, I don't have the answers to everything. I can't assume that I just know what people need. We will always have assumptions, but it's important to realize that we have to let go of them once we understand what people actually need in their lives. So we want to improve other people's lives, and it's important to get to understand what people want, but we can't just assume that we know what's best for them. So I think challenging part is letting go of our previous experiences and our personal stories and our biases, because we're doing things for others. So my day-to-day is always different, because as a UX designer there are so many things to do. It's like a process, you know, it's always different. So we'll start out with the researching phase, then we'll go into maybe reframing or redefining what the actual problem is. So the client might approach us and say, this is a problem we're trying to solve. But then the more you start getting into the research side of things, you start seeing, well, yeah, that's the problem, but maybe the original cause is not what they think it is, or maybe the consequence of their design is not, you know, it's related to something different than what they initially thought, or what we initially thought. And then we'll be doing more research and ideation, and then eventually, once, you know, we have some ideas, we'll pick 1 or 2 and we'll start prototyping those. We'll start with very lo-fi prototypes that don't involve a lot of effort or any coding at first. Maybe start getting feedback on those first, testing, and then after we'll do some iterations and get into more complex prototypes until we reach an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. So I think, day to day is always different. If I'm working on a project, it may be that I'm doing research by myself and trying to learn more about what we're doing, or it may be that I'm talking to people and getting interviews and gathering insights. It may be that I'm brainstorming with my colleagues and trying to come up with new ideas. It's always different. I think that's the great thing about UX design, it's never the same thing. When we approach projects with a new client, when we have just kicked off a new project, we'll ask the client to give us all the information they already have about the product that they're creating and that they want us to improve. So this may be any previous research they've done, any previous interviews or testing that they've done, the feedback that they've gathered, the personas that they've created, any user journeys that they may have, basically anything that could help us do our job better. Could be research around their competitors. So we try to collect everything they have and ask them questions about what they know. And actually, the best way to do that is by kicking off with a workshop. So even before we start to tackle the problem as a team, we'll have a workshop with a client and try to understand who are the stakeholders in this, who are impacted by this product. What are their assumptions that they have to validate? That's very crucial. What do they already know? What don't they know? Who are their competitors? We try to gather all that information with a workshop, and then from there we start looking at their research, we do our own research, and then we continue from there. That's how we generally kick off a UX design project. So to gather research, there's a lot of reading to be done. For example, if you're doing a product for healthcare, you'll want to understand what the digital healthcare world is looking like right now. What are the trends? Who are the people who are making big steps there? What are the main problems that the industry is facing? And then you start going more niche into that topic. So if you're doing something specifically for diabetes, for example, you want to do research more specifically related to that problem or topic that you're involved with. So we'll read about current trends and competitors and also other people in the space. Another way of doing research is also trying to understand the people that you're designing the product for. So we'll start talking to people, trying to find the target users and understanding what is their lifestyle like, how, what are the problems that they're facing that this product could solve for them, what are their thoughts on this product, or what are their thoughts on whatever they're going through. So it's a lot about talking to people. If you're in a position where you can actually observe people, which isn't always our case because we are working remotely, but if you can observe your target user in their environment, that's always really useful. If you can immerse yourself in their experience, that's another thing that I would highly suggest doing. We also look at market research, looking at competitors. What are they doing? How are they different from the client that we're working from? What are they doing better? What are they doing worse? Are there any other products, maybe not necessarily in this space, but who do something similar? So it doesn't have to be only competitors who are doing something similar. Maybe we can be inspired by them. So mainly our research will look at all of that. During our UX design process, we will be doing personas at a certain point. So trying to understand who are we designing something for and creating these proto-personas who are representing the kind of people that we like to design things for, but they're not real people, but they're based on maybe the interviews that we've had and ideas that we have about the people we're designing for. And we also look at the user journey, so the whole experience of them interacting with whatever it is that we're designing. So this could be in the form of screens or wireframes, for example, and saying, okay, step by step, each of these screens, why is this person looking at this screen or at this part of the journey? What are they looking for even before they reach their digital touch point, for example? What are their thoughts and what are their feelings, and how do they feel as they're going from one step to the next step? So we try to imagine what that user journey could be like, and then later when we do our prototype, we then test it with people and try to see if what we assumed would happen actually happens. We try to validate our assumptions and also try to really understand how people are going through this experience. When we're collecting people's feedback, I tend to use a feedback grid. So first of all, I'll interview the users and I'll record the interviews with their consent and then transcribe those interviews into text. So that's super useful because by reading them again. You don't have to listen to the whole interview, but it's much faster to read it, and then you can start highlighting the important things that they've said that really kind of stood out for you. Or this can be unexpected things, this can be things which contradict your assumptions, or that even it could be things that the user says that contradict something they've previously said. So they may say like, I always do this, but then when you actually interview them later on, you'll realize that they contradict what they said they always do. So you try to kind of spot these contradictions and spot these very insightful information that people are giving to you. And then generally I like to collect these into a feedback grid. So feedback grid it's like a template. It's a 4 square, it's a 2x2 grid. And then you have it separated into, so you'll start with one section will be things that people really like about whatever prototype you've created. So you kind of collect and cluster all the information there. You have a part which is things that can be improved. Third part which refers to things that people found confusing or didn't understand on your prototype. And then you have a fourth section where you start collecting information about new ideas that people had regarding your product. So new features or new things that you could new directions that you could take with your product. So once we cluster all this, it actually gives us a really good visualization. We tend to use a tool called Mural, which is an online whiteboard. And since we're a distributed team, it's really helpful to use these online cloud platforms to collect all the information and have it visible all at once. One of the clients that we worked with was an app called Ava. Ava is actually a startup based in San Francisco, and they have created an app which transcribes speech into text. So the reason the people they're doing this for is for deaf and hard of hearing people who have a hard time understanding what people are saying, especially in group conversations. So by using this app, and they when they're talking to other people or a group of people, everything that everybody else is saying is being transcribed into text, and the deaf or hard of hearing person can read what is being said on their screen. Very great app. So we helped them a few years ago to improve their onboarding experience. And during the user testing phase, we had to test our prototype with deaf and hard of hearing people. And we did this in many ways, always online, because as I mentioned before, we're online or distributed teams. We work a lot only virtually, basically. So our client had found a school of deaf and hard of hearing students, and the way we managed to communicate with them was, well, we were on Skype with their teacher. Their teacher had projected the screen, the Skype window on a wall so that the whole class could see us as we were walking them through the different screens on the mock-up we had done. And she was translating our questions in sign language to her class. So we would ask a question, the teacher would use sign language so that the rest of the class could understand, and they would respond to her using sign language, and she would translate that back to us. So that was a really incredible experience because we had never done something like that before, and you could see how they felt and how excited they were about what we were doing, which was a very moving experience, because there is when you can see, okay, what we're designing is actually really impacting people's lives, and hopefully in a positive way. So that was really interesting. And then we also had one-on-one interviews with deaf and hard of hearing people on Skype. So that would be just me speaking to somebody or having them on my screen, and then I would either ask the questions and they could maybe lip read my mouth and then understand what I was saying and then reply by text in the chat box on Skype, or if they couldn't lip read, we would just chat. Both of us would chat on them in the Skype chat box. But what I didn't expect was, I didn't realize that deaf and hard of hearing people spend a lot of time reading and typing all day, and so they get tired of reading and typing. Well, many people that I interviewed were saying, I do this a lot. So they kind of reduced the amount of text they write. So it was very kind of straight to the point, direct, not a lot of text. And I was writing these like long sentences. And so that was a good insight for me. And these kind of experiences make you realize how people live differently. They make you really understand there are so many ways to live and to communicate, for example. So that was a really great experience for me. So no, I do not know how to code. I'm more involved in the research part of the UX design process as well as a testing phase. And also I help in the prototyping phase, in the initial, when it's still like a lo-fi prototype and it's not coded up yet. But once it is coded, I will take that prototype and still test it with users remotely, and I will collect the feedback like I mentioned before. And I'll make sure to communicate all those insights to the developers, so if I'm putting things on Mural using virtual sticky notes, and if I've transcribed interviews, we use Slack to communicate online, so I'll post these links towards a G-Doc or towards a Mural and say, guys, this is where I've collected all the information, you can look through it, and then we might have a call and I can walk them through it if they have any questions. Otherwise, it's pretty, many times it's straightforward and they can just continue from there. But I share the process all along, so it's not like I do all the research and then they code it up. It's like, as they're coding, I'm doing testing, and then we share information. They send me new prototypes, I share with them the insights that I got from the latest testing. So it's very, very collaborative. I would say that one useful resource is UX Pin. There are a lot of ebooks there and courses and just lots of useful information regarding UX design. I also tend to use Medium to look up case studies around UX design, and there's just a lot of information there on medium.com. Yeah, I'm not sure where my career will take me as a UX designer, but I think I'll be going more towards educating others or teaching others how to do UX design. So I think lately, I've been doing a lot of online workshops and teaching people how to do UX design remotely as a distributed team. I also have given workshops online on design thinking. So I think I really enjoy doing these kind of online courses, and I think I'll be doing more and more of those. I hope what I've said today has been useful for anybody who wants to do UX design, especially as a remote designer or somebody who works virtually with a team. Let me know if you have any more questions. You can find me on Twitter at Laïla von A, so it's Lailavona. Yeah, it was great to be part of this. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Laïla, for giving me this interview. Your answers were super insightful, and your stories, the story about people with hearing issues just really melted my heart. It was so nice to hear that they felt that they were cared for, and it's just beautiful. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think in the comments below this video, and also my Instagram. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and all that stuff. But seriously, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And have an amazing time you're currently experiencing. Bye.